Hello and welcome. My name is Julie Allen from Julie Allen Consulting, and today we are here to talk about the secrets of an emotionally intelligent leader. Welcome to those of you joining me for the first time, and welcome back for those of you that this has now become a regular occurrence. Thank you all for attending and for taking the time out. Just while we're waiting for everybody to join, I should say first of all that this webinar at the moment is live. We are recording, so on Crowdcast, each of my webinars are available to watch on demand. So some will attend now and some will attend later. I'd love it if you could just introduce yourself in the chat box. If you could let me know who you are, maybe where you're from, and what's brought you along here today. This is a 30-minute webinar, so with lots to pack in, I'm going to get started while hopefully you're getting involved in the chat box, because I'd love to know a little bit more about yourself. So while you're doing that, a little bit about myself. So I support organisations and individuals to become more adaptable, resilient and open to change. I am an accredited, internationally certified user of Thomas International's Trait Emotional Intelligence Questionnaire, the TQ for short. I am accredited also with their certified user of Thomas International's Personality Profile Analysis. And I'm also, most of you will know me as a certified ACT and ProSocial Matrix facilitator, and I'm a member of the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development. So great, Alison, thank you for joining in Bangor. We do have an international audience signing up, so Bangor again is in Northern Ireland. Joanne from the YMCA in Dublin. Joanne, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us. And Therese, you're in Lurgan. Therese, thanks for joining. Maria, Lisburn in Northern Ireland. Brendan from the YMCA Greenhill. I think that's in Newcastle, Brendan. So you are all very welcome. So those involved in the chat box at the moment are certainly local to myself. As I've said in the chat box, I'm from a small town in Northern Ireland called Holywood. Some of you might know Holywood for Rory McIlroy, Jamie Dornan, Van Morrison, all natives of Holywood. So I will move on because you're here to talk about hear about the secrets of an emotionally intelligent leader. So I will begin with that. So let's just have some thoughts around what are we going to cover today. So the key areas of focus in this 30 minutes are what emotional intelligence is and why it's important in the workplace, the benefits of enhancing your own emotional intelligence, and the traits of emotional intelligence. I hope that's the area that will be maybe of greatest interest, and the impact these traits have on others. So why are we having this conversation today? I just wanted to outline a little bit for you about today's workplace. So Gallup's Global State of the Workplace Report 2022 highlighted that when they asked people the emotions they experienced a lot the previous day, 44% of individuals said they experienced stress, 40% worry, 23% sadness, and 21% anger. So these emotions are tracked over a year-on-year basis, and stress is at the highest levels. I'd not be surprised if you confirmed in the chat box that there was stress perhaps in your own life and also of others in your workplace. So not only do we have these emotions of stress, worry, sadness and anger showing up, what we also have here is, again, some research, I'm going to throw a lot of research at this point, is 91% of first level leaders are confident they have the trust of their team, but 58% of employees say they trust strangers more than their boss. So what's showing up today in today's workplace? Stress, worry, sadness, anger, and also we know that there is a lack of trust showing up in organisations. Chief Executive and Chairman of Gallup believes that your manager has more impact on your health and well-being than your doctor. Now, put some of those things together that I've just outlined on the slide, and I want to combine that with the fact that you will be experiencing the symptoms of this statistic that I'm going to give you, but I don't know whether you'll know the statistic itself. I have talked about this at other webinars. So Korn Ferry in 2018, through their research, they predicted that there would be a global talent shortage of 85.2 million by 2030. So we are in the middle of a talent shortage at the moment. One thing that you need to be aware of is that is not going away. Also, what we know is some research conducted by McKinsey & Company into why people were leaving organisations found the top 3 reasons for leaving was not feeling valued by the organisation, not feeling valued by the manager, and not feeling that sense of belonging. What do all of these things have in common? They all have the manager, the leaders in common. So the impact you have on the people around you is substantial, and so you want to be ensuring that you are having a positive impact on those people around you. And so that's why we're here today, because we're going to talk about what emotional intelligence is, the traits of emotional intelligence and the benefits of that. So just before I go any further, what I'm going to do is just launch a little poll for us. And so I want you to maybe think about what I've talked about just in terms of those emotions in the workplace, the current state of today's workplace. And what I want you to do is to tell me in this survey, so how aware are you of your emotions on others? Are you very aware, or not aware? So are you conscious of the impact that you are having on the people around you? Please feel free to vote. I'll share the results of that poll. So I can see you getting started with that. Okay, so far what we've got is we have a mix of people being either very aware or not aware. Or even aware. So we've got varying degrees of. Now, as a leader, we need to become much more aware of the impact that we are having on other people. So thank you for getting involved and answering the questions to that poll. If we just now, skipping forward, look at, well, what really is then emotional intelligence? So we all experience emotions. We respond to those emotions in particular ways. For many of us, that response is habitual. And so emotional intelligence is an individual's capacity to recognise their own and other people's emotions. In other words, are you aware of the emotions that are showing up for you? Take for a moment and just think about what is showing up for you here as you're at this webinar. Are you feeling a little stressed because you've taken time out to develop yourself, but know that there's something waiting for you? Are you feeling frustrated about a conversation perhaps that you've had with an individual before you attended this webinar? So it's your individual capacity to recognise your own and other people's emotions and their ability to use this emotional information to guide how they think, respond and behave. Or think about it. When those emotions show up, do you simply respond in the moment? Or do you take a moment to consider that emotion and how you would like to respond to that? So there is between the stimulus and response, there is a space, and in that space then there is our ability to choose. So with emotional intelligence, today what I'll be talking about is emotional intelligence as a collection of personality traits concerning people's perceptions of their emotional abilities And these traits predict numerous outcomes. Outcomes such as life satisfaction, coping strategies, and rumination. And an interesting little quote, I think, for you to consider in terms of emotions and knowing yourself. So knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. And mastering yourself is true power. So developing yourself in terms of your emotional intelligence will undoubtedly make you a better leader, and I will also talk about some of the other benefits that will come with that. But if we're talking about the secrets of an emotionally intelligent leader, then what does that mean? Let's break that down. So the emotionally intelligent leader has the capacity to harmonise thought and emotion. So consider thoughts and emotions are internal experiences, and then our behaviour is external, what people see and hear, and we see and hear those things as a result of the thoughts and emotions that show up in the internal world. So the emotionally intelligent leader is self-aware. They are aware of those things that are showing up. They can take that helicopter view of themselves. They can perceive the emotions of others. They can modify their own behaviour and that of others. They can motivate themselves. They will persist in the face of frustration. They will be able to control those impulses when they show up. They'll be able to regulate mood and emotion. They'll be able to empathise with others, empathy being one of those leadership characteristics that we have seen growing as a result of the pandemic. So there's a huge growth in empathy in the initial stages of the pandemic, but now that we're moved past that, it's maybe just thinking about how empathetic am I as a leader? And the question I'll be asking again later is, how empathetic do I need to be? So we need to consider that moving forward. Am I able to manage my stress levels? And the emotionally intelligent leader will also be optimistic. So just having a look at that list of the secrets of an emotionally intelligent leader, perhaps maybe time for you to think about, where do I fall on that list? So what would I perhaps need to change and improve? What are my strengths and what would my areas of development be? And also what I'm going to do is just coming back to thinking about being self-aware and those emotions, just sharing the other poll, just taking us back to those emotions that are showing up in the workplace: stress, worry, sadness and anger. So did you experience, or today, yesterday, did you experience the following a lot of during the day? So this will be an interesting one, considering the topic that we're talking about, so I can see stress and worry showing up. Please don't be shy. Nobody will see who responds to which of these emotions. They are all what I would say is a normal range of healthy emotions. So please feel free to select which of those emotions you feel that you've been experiencing a lot. So I can see increases in worry showing up. So am I aware of those emotions showing up? Am I aware of how I am responding to those? What impact is that having on me? And what impact is that having on others? Those are key questions that I'd like you to ask yourself, to consider, just as we're talking through this, but as you go through the rest of the day and even tomorrow. Would you have the opportunity to notice what is showing up for you in the internal world and the external world? And how do I behave as a result of that? because behaviour is something that we see, and in terms of leadership, that is what your people are going to see. So at the moment, we're neck and neck in terms of stress and worry, equally both being experienced. So just thinking about those are definitely experienced. Sorry, stress is just nudged up that little bit more. So if you're experiencing stress, how are you responding to that? If you're experiencing worry, how are you responding to that? Hi Ryan, thanks for joining us. And sorry, we're just talking about here the secrets of the emotionally intelligent leader, and that they have the capacity to harmonise thought and emotion. We're also completing a poll at the moment around the emotions that you might be experiencing a lot yesterday. So again, thanks for getting involved in that. Thank you for those of you that have been joining as I have been just talking through this. So just again, moving forward, what I'd said I would do is talk about the traits of emotional intelligence. So the traits here developed by Dr. Kevin Petries, this model owned by Thomas International. So if we look at the traits of emotional intelligence, there are 15 different what we call facets. There are 4 factors being well-being, self-control, emotionality, sociability, and then we have some independent facets. So let's just take these for a moment and think about the secrets of that emotionally intelligent leader. I want you to be thinking about yourself here in terms of how you behave and how you show up to your own emotions. So well-being, the 3 facets relating to well-being are happiness, optimism, and self-esteem. Let's take for a moment self-esteem. So what would you say your levels of self-esteem are? Interesting, when we talk about self-esteem, individuals will talk about high levels of self-esteem. So just think about for a moment, would you classify you have high levels of self-esteem, average levels of self-esteem, or do you think that you're maybe suffering an undersupply of self-esteem? And think about for a moment, what are the requirements of your role? The role that you fulfill, what does it need? And also then what I want you to now do is to think about what impact does my self-esteem levels have on myself and the people around me. So I'd love if you could get involved in the chat box, because I think that is the best way of learning as we discuss this. So we're talking about self-esteem. If I had high levels of self-esteem, how might I come across to my team? What are the words that you would use to describe somebody who had high levels of self-esteem? Please get involved in the chat box. If I don't hear from you shortly, I will start to answer those questions, but I'd love to know what you have to say. So what would high levels of self-esteem look like? How confident and assertive? Thank you, Aileen. So you could come, great. So confident, assertive, and Therese, absolutely. It could come across as cockiness, arrogant. So it's back to that whole thing of sometimes we've got to be careful what we wish for. So perhaps average levels of self-esteem will be great, but there are times when we will need to be maybe more assertive. If we were in a burning building, for example, we would need to make sure that we are confident telling people what to do and let's get out of here. So what we're trying to do here is explore each of these, and you could explore each of the facets. I'm going to be selecting a few of those to talk about within this 30-minute webinar. If we move over to the second factor, which is self-control, and in self-control we again have some facets: emotional regulation, impulse control, and stress management. So let's take for a moment impulse control. If I was unable to control my emotion, if I was unable to control my impulses, what might be the consequences of that? What would we see or hear if I was unable to control those impulses? Well, let me give you an example. It could be that you're unable to control the impulses to shop, and you could run up credit card bills because every time you go shopping you want to buy what you see, buy what you like. Impulse control, even, acting on those impulses as they show up in the workplace, what might that do for you, and what might that do for those colleagues that you have? They might find that difficult to deal with. They might feel that you change things on a whim. So we need to be thinking about the impact that our emotions and our behaviour has on ourselves, but then also on other people. Moving over to the emotionality factors, we have 4 facets in this occasion: empathy, emotional perception, emotional expression, and relationships. Lots of emotional aspects in each of the factors. Emotional perception is your ability to read your own and other people's emotions, so that's emotional literacy. How do I express my emotions is the emotional expression. And relationships is your ability to start and maintain relationships. Let's take for a moment empathy. If you had high levels of empathy as a leader, would that present any problems for you and for others on the team? Love to hear from you in the chat box. Again, those of you that have joined me before, I like these to be interactive. What kind of difficulty would there be if you had high levels of empathy as a leader? Great, thank you for getting involved. You could be seen as a soft touch and a walkover. Thank you, Therese, absolutely. Over emotionally involved. So you could be seen as a soft touch and you try to fix things or fix people. So it means that, perhaps rather than sticking with a course and a plan, that you will change and adapt dependent on stories other people are telling you. So empathy, we've talked about, is great. We've seen leaders become more empathetic. It's definitely a skill to be developed. But we've got to consider the level that we want to get to. The way I think about this is, do I want to dial it up or dial it down? And that will be situational. There will be times when individuals are experiencing difficulties and we want to be much more empathetic. There are times when we want to be able to dial it down. So flexibility is the key in terms of the secrets of the emotionally intelligent leader. Moving across then to sociability. Sociability, we have 3 facets again. Emotional management, that is our ability to manage the emotions of other people. Assertiveness, how frank we are able to be in given circumstances. And social awareness, our ability to operate in different social situations. Now, as a leader, we need to be sociable. We need to be able to enter into different social situations, to be able to walk the room, to be able to talk to people. And as leaders, sometimes that's something that we can find as awkward. Some people will suffer with some social anxiety in relation to this one. That's generally not unusual for me to find. One of the things is to remember is we are all human. Our emotions and our behaviour come from how we've been brought up. So we've been trained by our parents, we've been trained by our school teachers, we've been trained by those people that we have grown up with, perhaps it's our friends, and also one of the big things in terms of how we behave, even in terms of our emotions, can sometimes be even from a religious or spiritual aspect. So just thinking about, we talked about earlier, what impact might assertiveness have? So if we become over assertive, then what we might find is that those people in the room that have an undersupply of assertiveness will stay quiet. If we feel that we want to be frank and forthright, others will stop communicating with us, because they may get the impression that the only view that's important is yours. So we want to be assertive, but we still want to be present and to be really listening to what people have to say. If you feel that you are perhaps over assertive, have an oversupply of, what I would suggest you do is ask questions before you share your own opinion. And then moving across to the two independent facets. Those independent facets are adaptability and self-motivation. Self-motivation is internally driven rather than the requirement for external motivation. And adaptability is our ability to change and adapt to given circumstances. Adaptability in today's world is key. The world is changing. We need to adapt in terms of skills. We need to be agile. All of those words used today. You need to consider how adaptable and how self-motivated, how driven am I? And is that something perhaps that I may need to improve? So working on these 15 different facets is key in terms of developing our emotional intelligence. Emotionally intelligent leaders also will be able to notice their emotions and their response to them. So as I talked about that helicopter view, they'll be able to notice how other people are showing up to their emotions and notice how others respond to you. I think that's an interesting one, is noticing how individuals show up to you, how they respond to you. Noticing being the key word here. Also, emotionally intelligent leaders are curious. They ask other people for their perspective. They explore the why to understand other people's perspective. And when criticised, they look at what they can learn. So they don't seek criticism and they don't take criticism personally. So they try to get a better understanding. So the development of curiosity is key in terms of developing emotional intelligence. We need to practice noticing and being curious. These things just don't happen. We need to keep practicing, encouraging ourselves to do so, taking time out and being conscious about noticing and being curious. In terms of organisational benefits from emotional intelligence, if we go back to some of the statistics that I talked about earlier, people are leaving workplaces, probably about 30% of 30% of people will be leaving organisations in Europe. That was the prediction. We know that there's going to be a talent shortage. So as leaders, if we develop our emotional intelligence, we respond better to people, then what we'll find organisationally is there'll be improved teamwork, improved work environment. People will feel psychologically safe, able to have open and honest conversations without fear of reprisal and feeling humiliated. Organisations will become more adaptable and resilient, be able to manage talent better, and there will be undoubtedly improved well-being in the organisation, because those stress and worry levels and anger levels will definitely decrease because we're better able to handle and manage those emotions. Personal benefits of emotional intelligence are about having more successful relationships, being excellent communicators, having greater physical and mental health because we're much more aware and noticing our internal experiencing and also how we respond to that. And they're emotionally intelligent leaders then are more easily able to adapt their behaviour to a variety of situations, and as a result emotionally intelligent leaders definitely have the edge. What I'd like to know or let you know in terms of moving forward, I will be, as a result of the interest experience for today's webinar, I will be offering a Developing Emotional Intelligence online program. I generally provide this within organisations, but I'm going to offer this in terms of, as I say, an online program. I'll be offering a 30-minute webinar on the 20th of April, again on this platform, Crowdcast, outlining a little bit more about emotional intelligence, the program, how we'll be moving forward. During this program, you will have the opportunity for your emotional intelligence to be measured. It will be measured using the Trait Emotional Intelligence questionnaire. You will complete the questionnaire. You will receive an individualized report showing how you perceive yourself in each of those 15 facets that we've just talked about. And then you will meet with me for a 75-minute online feedback session using Teams or Zoom, whatever suits you better. The cost of that for all of those activities is £450 per person, and this does include taxes. If you're interested in this program, please click the green button below your screen, and that will take you through to the registration. I'd love to hear at this point how you find what you've heard today, whether you find that to be useful, whether emotional intelligence is something that you're interested in. I'd love to get some feedback in the chat box if you could. I appreciate time goes by very quickly. The 30 minutes is up. I believe it's 31 minutes at the moment. So what I do want to say is thank you very much for attending. If you want to get in touch, you can also follow me on Crowdcast. Just click the button above your screen so that you will be notified of new webinars coming up. You can follow me on Twitter and also on LinkedIn. I've also provided my web address, email and telephone number should you want to have a chat about your own emotional intelligence. If you are unsure about whether you want to attend this online program and you have any questions for me, please visit my website and book a call to discuss this program with me. You'll see the book a call at the top of the web page. Thank you for attending. As I say, I'd love to get some feedback from you. Don't be shy. Feel free just to put a little bit of feedback in the chat box. That always helps me to improve these webinars and make sure they are relevant for you. Have a great day. If you're in Ireland, which many of you are, enjoy St. Patrick's Day tomorrow, and maybe you've got a long weekend ahead. Thanks again for attending. Take care. Bye.